So this is going to be another movie review. This one's called Chappie, 2015. I'm giving this 3 out of 5 stars. I thought it was alright. I was disappointed. I reviewed District 9 about 5 years ago or something. I guess it takes about 5 years for DVDs to go from 500 on my Netflix list to number one. So I finally got there. Like I said, I was doing the review of District 9 from the same director, and I love that movie so much. It had so much dark humor, and it was just ridiculous. Even my son watched some of it, and he thought it was pretty funny, but it was rated R, and he was only like 5 years old, so he couldn't get through too much of it without being freaked out by the aliens. But yeah, a lot of potty mouth in that one. This one has very little nudity and a lot of really violent ending. I guess that's why it gets an R rating. So it's got Hugh Jackman, who played Wolverine, and Sigourney Weaver, who plays the evil, greedy corporate executive. All right. So this was filmed in Johannesburg. I don't know why. Wikipedia calls it an American film. They're calling it an American dystopian science fiction action film. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of action at the end. Not too much going on in the beginning or the middle. I, like I said, I love the ending, and I wanted to see all of the director's movies really after I saw District 9, but this one disappointed me. Audra Hando recommended it to me 5 years ago after she saw my District 9 review, and she thought it would be really cool if her son saw this video. Around that time, I discovered that she had 2 sons. She didn't tell me this until months and months later on, after she started posting comments on my channel. Then she disappeared, and I was planning to take a plane ticket to Indianapolis. I think I mentioned this before, and her dad died. So I had to cancel my plane ticket. She ended up moving to Michigan. And then I never heard from her again. She was into kinky sex, and she was worried about getting AIDS. And she thought I had autism. And she was very pretty, Native American, flat-chested. So it was unfortunate that I couldn't go to visit her in Indianapolis. I was looking forward to watching movies and indulging in some debauchery. But such is life. I guess God intervened and he said, no debauchery for you. All right. So, getting back to the movie, enough about Audra Hando. She's ancient history, but I couldn't get into the characters in this movie. I thought the nerdy guy was just way too lame and wimpy. And it has a lot of plot holes, this movie. I'll go into more detail, but first, let me give you some background. Okay, so there's a skyrocketing crime rate in Johannesburg, which leads the police force to buy a squadron of scouts, state-of-the-art armor-plated attack robots from weapons manufacturer Tetraval. Okay, so Sigourney Weaver is in charge of this Tetraval. And these androids are developed by this guy, Dion Wilson. And they pretty much substitute the overwhelmed human police force. It's kind of like what was that Japanese movie with the audition girl, the comely audition girl with the mole on her nose. I don't know. It's like that. The whole privatization of the police and the robot police kind of theme going there. It's intriguing. I thought it had a lot going for it. It just wasn't executed very well. So this Dion Wilson guy has the bright idea of planting actual human intelligence or conscience into this robot that was in the process of getting junked, and Sigourney Weaver refuses to let him do it, so he steals the robot parts that are about to be junked, and he creates this android called Chappie. Now he does it in the presence of a bunch of criminals because they're figuring on getting him to give them his remote for the off switch so they can create more crime. This other nasty looking gangster guy with funny looking hair. They all have weird looking hair, these criminals. But this rival gangster says come up with 20 million or in 7 days. Where that came from, nobody knows. And so they're thinking they're going to do this big heist by switching using the remote to switch all the robots off, which ends up happening at the end of the movie by Hugh Jackman. So these criminals, there's like an albino woman with really white hair, and their hair is shaved on the sides, both the man and the woman. But then there's a mullet in the back. They walk around like gangsters, tattoos everywhere, that kind of thing. I've never seen a South African gangster before, but I guess there's a first for everything. And the music in this movie is horrible, by the way. Anyways, the guy's name is Ninja, not only in the movie but in real life, and he's hell bent on turning Chappie into a gangster. But the Dion Wilson, British scientist guy, he's trying to convince Chappie not to do any criminal acts, and why he keeps coming and going to that abandoned I don't even know what that place is. It looks like an abandoned construction site where Chappie is living with his gangster friends. And I've never seen a gangster robot before, but he takes the side of the gangsters because he knows his battery's going to run out pretty soon. He's going to die. And then so it's unclear how or why they just let the British scientist do Dion Wilson just come and go at will to visit Chappie. They could have just held him there and gotten what they wanted from him that way, but they just let him take off. And similar kind of thing happened, inexplicable. They just dumped Chappie in the middle of nowhere, and somehow, miraculously, he made his way back to that abandoned construction site or whatever the heck that ugly building was. And the rival gangster's name is Hippo, by the way, and it's 20 million rand, $20 million. What am I talking about? I'm thinking South Africa uses US dollars. That must be. I must be getting South Africa mixed up with Zimbabwe. Anyway, so Ninja tries to train Chappie to be a gangster robot. And then Hugh Jackman is trying to get his Moose project which is this giant military robot. And another thing really dumb was the British scientist Dion Wilson was trying to put Hugh Jackman down for being a military guy and not a scientist like he was. But how did Hugh Jackman come up with such complicated machinery that you're able to control this huge moose thing remotely by using your brain and putting this cap on? So Chappie gets wind of this cap and he uses it to extract people's conscious minds so that they can change their body form or cross over to somebody else's body. He learns it from the internet because he saw a sign that said internet on it. And so he does this, and Hugh Jackman decides to attack Chappie and his adopted family, the criminals, and also the British scientist Dion. So there's a big battle scene at the end, and the albino blondie gal ends up dying. So Chappie takes it out on Hugh Jackman. Again, it's unclear how he figured out that Hugh Jackman was responsible. Another plot hole. And Chappie's all gangster with chains and $sign on his head. and he's ripping off cars. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's like a little child. And, he thinks that he's told that stabbing somebody with a knife is just putting them to sleep, and they want to go to sleep. So he ends up pulling off this heist of a armored car, and it gets broadcast on television. And that's Hugh Jackman's excuse to go after Chappie with his moose thing, which was a failed project in the eyes of the police. They never wanted to buy it. Just kind of unrealistic. Usually the police want to buy armored vehicles and all kinds of military stuff, especially when it comes to no-knock raids and things like that. SWAT teams, drug raids, that kind of stuff. So that part didn't make a lot of this movie didn't make sense to me. Like I said, but I did like the ending. It didn't have the dark humor of District 9. I didn't like any of the characters really. I thought the Dion guy was too wimpy. He was just helpless. And he ends up dying in the end. I don't want to spoil the ending, but yeah. Pretty cool ending, though, I have to admit. And some pretty good explosions at the end. Like I said, there's very little nudity in this. I don't even know why they give it an R rating. I guess it's got the potty mouth, the violence, and a little bit of nudity. It grossed $102 million against a $49 million budget, so it made pretty good profit. It gets mixed reviews, and there was supposed to be a Chappie trilogy. But the director said that the original film didn't perform well enough for sequels. So it wasn't economically feasible for that. Anyways, it was a good concept. It had a decent ending. It just, the beginning and the middle were kind of. And it's 2 hours long, so you got to sit through like an hour of just monotony build-up, bunch of annoying gangsters and stuff. Chappie calls. At first, Chappie is kind of like a baby. You have to teach him English and things like that. So he calls the blondie mommy. He calls the ninja dude daddy, and then he calls the Dion guy Maker. And he's kind of irritated at Maker because Dion guy gave him a very limited battery. He brought him to life knowing that he was going to die, and Dion's explanation didn't make any sense to me. He said something like, I didn't know you were going to turn out like this, or something really dumb. For scientists, he behaves really dumb. it was an interesting concept. I think it was very unrealistic, but so was District 9. At least District 9 had the black humor going. And, this one didn't really have it at all. I didn't laugh a single time at any of the subtle jokes. So, not a great flick. Really disappointed. And I want to watch Cameron's Closet. I only worked 4.5 hours, but I was able to watch Chappie in my car because I got there early. And I got a bunch of chicken and potatoes, again, for my employer, so that was pretty decent. Huge thing of barbecue chicken and then smaller, but still a lot of chicken tenders in that little tiny container, and then some fried potatoes. So I just got to remember to go to the cafeteria at the end of my shift, and there's always this rack of food. Something decent. I also got some fat salt. Never seen this before. It's called fat salts. Herbs grown in Oakland. This is kind of interesting. It expires 12/20/20, so I don't even know why they put it out there. I guess they want employees to try it so that they'll buy it. I don't know. It's weird, but it's got rock sea salt, pink mineral salt. It doesn't say Himalayan pink salt. It just says pink mineral salt. Fine sea salt, parsley. Why don't they just call it parsley? And sage, rosemary, and thyme. So I'm going to try this on my lasagna that I got cooking in the oven right now for an hour and 20 minutes. And I'm also going to pour some Himalayan pink salt on there just to mix it up, give it a lot of flavor. But I think I'll just nap while my lasagna is cooking later.